It's music teacher tips and tricks time. This is tip number 2. So I wanted to follow up with tip number 1. Tip number 1 was on goal setting, and tip number 2 goes hand in hand with goal setting. You really can't have your goal setting work just the way it should without some reflection. And reflection is something I do with my students quite often throughout the year. But when they're setting new goals, I have them first reflect back on what they did accomplish the last semester, the last year, because it's important to reflect on accomplishments, what they were able to accomplish, the things that they did well, the things that they improved on. But also, it's important to reflect on things that maybe didn't go so well and that need a little bit more improvement on, or maybe something that they struggled with that could become a goal. And the reason why I have them reflect first is because a lot of those reflection points, the questions that are answered, leads to really good goals that they could be working on as well. And I think when they're used to reflecting as well, they are more mindful on what kind of goals they do want to set, and a little bit more mindful on the things that they achieved or didn't achieve. So reflection is a huge thing. Just a good tip to, if you haven't done reflection time with your students at all, I would highly encourage you to set a lesson aside or just some time aside. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be a complete lesson. It could be 5 minutes or something, and have them write down, answering some questions. In the January 2019 newsletter, your freebie was one of the things that were in your freebie download is a reflection fortune teller or cookie catcher or whatever you might call it. And these have reflection questions that students could answer. That works out really well. I thought I would go through just a few of the questions. So one was, what was a favorite piece or activity you did this year? So they could be thinking about that, and why was it their favorite? What was their favorite accomplishments this past year? What is something that they would like to improve on? Again, which sets up for a possible goal that they could do. Let's see what else. What is your personal strength? And I find that question actually a hard one for students to answer. They're easy to answer on things that maybe didn't go well, but personal strength, they're like, oh, I don't know what my personal strength is, because I always have them relate it to music. They could usually, a lot of them will be able to say things in life, what their personal strength is, but they have a hard time relating what their personal strength is with their music. And so I kind of help guide them along. Well, what about this? You do really well with this, or kind of give them some little encouragement in certain areas. And they're like, oh yeah. So I like to do reflection activities during my music lab time. Anytime they do a project, an independent project, I like to have them reflect on whatever project they did or assignment that they did on their own. Because it helps them be a little bit more accountable with what they are doing in that independent time, and also a little bit more mindful going forward as well on what they learned, and they kind of remember things a little bit better when you have that reflection. So that is my tip number 2, and I would love to hear your tips. They could be anything from a certain game that you like to do, a way you teach a concept. It could even be a teacher tip for teachers, making teaching easier for you. So really anything goes, anything that has to do with teaching that will benefit each other and our students. So happy teaching.